God, today's such a nice day here in Minnesota. It's fall weather. It's beginning of October and the leaves are changing and the birds are singing and I don't know, it's a great Saturday. I actually tried to set up this recording situation in close to the windows so you could see the leaves. It didn't work. I tried 3 times. So I don't know, I'm gonna try to put some photos in here in the editing so you can see what I'm talking about. Today, I decided to do something a little different, which is a sit down here with you guys to talk about quitting my job. Julia here, and as the title of this video might say, I am a former director of finance and side hustler turned into full-time side hustler, which means that recently I quit my day job and now I am dedicating 100% of my time to my side hustle. And what is this gig, this hustle, you might be wondering? Well, I co-founded and now run a company that specializes in helping Brazilian doctors, yes, I am Brazilian, to become doctors in the US if they wish. And no, I don't have any medical background, but my partners do very much. What I do have is a strong finance and operation background, so I can run the business. I can run the back of the business and help them with it. Things that I do on my day-to-day go from setting up the business, setting up the bank account, credit cards, the finances, managing a team, dealing with the marketing strategy, the overall business strategy, insurance for the business, literally everything that doesn't include the content that we teach our students. And if you are a side hustler, if you have a gig, if you're a freelancer, you might either be very familiar with those activities or you might have questions about those activities. And this is the whole point of this channel, but more to come on that. So as any good business meeting, now we are going to establish the agenda for today. We will start with a quick overview of my career experience, my journey until here. And that's gonna really help you understand why did I quit my job and what were my reasons for it? What did I rationalize? What were the key points for me to make this decision? And I think this is the juicy part. This is where I can hopefully help people to understand what my thought process was, just in case you are going through that or it's interesting to you at all. I think this is the fun part. And point number 3, I'm gonna explain why the hell I am sharing this on YouTube in a video format. I am not a traditional YouTuber, but we'll go over that as well. So let's get into this. Let's start with my first job experience. So my first job was at SAP in New York City. My title was Associate Controller. SAP is a German company and they sell ERP, they sell software. And at this company, my job was to do the budgeting, the forecasting, and the closings. So that means the month-end close, the quarter-end close, the annual close for 2 specific teams in SAP's marketing department. SAP was a cool experience. It was my first introduction to what a corporate job is. What is it like to work in a big corporation? I think at the time that I joined, SAP had something like 100,000 employees around the world. It gave me the opportunity to travel. I went to Germany to their headquarters, and it really gave me that first introduction of what it is to have a job at a big company. One of the highlights of that job was SAP's office in New York. I am convinced I will never work in such fun and beautiful office space as SAP's Hudson Yards office. I mean, I'm talking about views, great desks, and I had my own desk after being an intern there, which was always fun. So I really enjoyed that experience, and I loved everything about SAP and what was around my job. I loved my colleagues, I loved the commute there, I loved just like the overall routine that I had. But the thing to note here is I didn't feel that I was learning very much. I quickly learned that as part of a big corporation, your job is often narrowed to one task because there's so much of that one task that they need one person to execute and then pass the baton to the second person. And I realized it would be really difficult and take a lot of time for me to get the overall picture of the business, for me to be exposed and to be able to really manage not only the one part of the P&L that I was managing, but also see the revenues and the strategy and like what was going around the projects and the budgets and the numbers that I was working with. I loved everything around the job. I didn't love how fast I was growing and learning at that first experience. An important part of this story is one of those two teams that I was working for at SAP was called, drumroll, it's a really large name, the Brand Advertising, Integrated Media, and Customer Storytelling. It's a massive name. There's like 4 teams inside of one. You can imagine the complexities of this team. And among many things, what they did was digital marketing, was media buying. I believe to this day that that word, digital advertising, was a keyword that perhaps triggered one of Jumps for 50 Media's owners and partners to reach out to me. So this marks the second phase in my career, which is moving from SAP to Jump for 50 Media. In June 2020, so it was a COVID job change, I joined Jump. What is Jump? Jump is a digital advertising agency in New York City. So Jump operated, and I think still does to this day, with principles of a startup. So I'm talking about innovation, a growth mindset, lean operations, technology first, visionary leadership. All those aspects that really attract me to the startup fast-paced world were at Jump. And best of all, they were not funding dependable. They were in fact very profitable. And all of those aspects really attracted me to Jump for 50 Media. The really cool thing about this job, and the part that I was the most excited about, is that I was joining as the second ever person in their finance department. This means that I was going to work under their head of finance, and was a woman whose title I think was finance controller. And she had built the first few years of Jump's financials herself, I believe. And in my mind, I was going to learn so much from her. I was going to finally have that full picture of a business. I was going to understand how to read the financial statements well and how to really manage a business. That was my ultimate goal working at Jump. I wanted to know if I could manage a business, how people were doing, what was the secret about it. So I started at Jump, and unexpectedly, on my second week at the job, this person that I was going to learn so much from, she put her notice. And quickly and unexpectedly, I gained a promotion, and I became Jump's head of finance at the age of 25 with pretty much no experience. To this day, I don't really know why the partners and owners of the company trusted me that much, but honestly, I took that challenge and I gave 100% of what I had over 4 years of my life to perform and grow. And I think I was lucky enough that this huge opportunity landed on my lap, but I also kind of rose to the occasion and really worked a lot and gave my best to take as much advantage as possible from that experience, which meant me leading a department, me really managing all aspects of finance in a startup-ish type of company. So yeah, a year and a half in, the Jump partners decided to engage in an M&A process, an M&A deal. And I was really involved, which was very cool experience for me. I got to see what a due diligence process is and how people behave in an M&A cycle, which is very prominent in New York City and finance and auditors and things like that. So it was great experience for me, great learning. And we actually ended up selling a majority stake of Jump to Omnicom Media Group. So that enters kind of like the third phase, that post Omnicom acquisition, my job kind of transitioned into managing a team. So that's the point that I wasn't doing all finance by myself anymore. I was building a team, and I was also working on integrating Jump's finances with Omnicom's finances and some other processes. Entering another mark in this timeline was around June 2023. I went to Central Park for a birthday party. So if you live in New York, you've probably done the picnics at Central Park, and they're wonderful. And I joined this birthday party where I met 2 of my friends who are now my co-founders and partners. And we had a conversation about what they were doing. They had created this business where they're teaching doctors in Brazil how to become doctors in the US. And they were looking for someone to structure the business, to run the back of the house, pretty much what I do right now. So I got home that day and messaged her, one of my partners, and say, hey, I really think this is a fun project. I'd like to work with you guys. And then pretty quickly by July 2023, I joined them to work on this side gig. So this company became my side hustle, became my side gig, something that I was doing outside my Jump hours. So this is something that people often ask ask, and I kind of did some research when I started the side gig, was how do people manage to work on two jobs? Like, is there a best strategy? What are the hours of the day? And I honestly think that at that time, you just scramble. You just do your best to work as hard as you can in both of your jobs. And that's what I did. My methodology was that I know that I'm a morning person and my most productive hours of the day will be my first 2 or 3 hours of work. So I shifted my schedule and I worked pretty intensively from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on my side gig. And then I would close my side gig computer, open my jump computer, and work from like 9 to, let's say, 8. And then close my jump computer again at 9 p.m., 10 p.m. I would pick up my side gig computer again and work another 2 or 3 hours. Obviously, that wasn't every single day, but I would say that it was pretty intense, and that was more or less my schedule 4 days a week. I worked like this for about 6 months. And if you're doing this right now, or even if you are not, one can only work this intensively for a short period of time. And my time was 6 months. So by November 2023, I put my notice at Jump, and my last day was January 15th, 2024. So the beginning of this year. So this wraps up my milestones, my job journey, and I think this is going to be pivotal for you to understand why I quit at the time that I did. Moving on to the second point is why did I quit? And sub-point, why did I decide to go all in on my side gig instead of getting another job, for example? An important thing to understand is that I wish I could say that I had all the points that I'm going to detail here extremely crystal clear in my mind and I had no doubt of my decision. But honestly, it was a really hard decision and one that I did not take lightly. So although I had a lot of whys in the back of my mind, I had this one very clear principle that I was following, which was the belief that the time and energy that I was putting at my day job was not going to take me where I wanted to be. That's a lot. So let me break it down for you. What do I mean by that? It's after Jump's acquisition, we started to slowly incorporate other types of processes, which is very normal and expected. When M&A happens and when someone buys something, you want to make your own, right? And Omnicom, it's a large corporation. It's a really big company, one of the biggest marketing companies in the world. And I knew from my experience at SAP that ultimately, at least in this phase of my life, in my 20s, I do not want to work for a large company. And this might change. I actually think there's a time and place that I would love to work for a big company again. I think a few years from now, maybe that's what I'm gonna do. But right now, it's just a personal preference that I wanna be doing a little bit more startup-ish. So that in itself was kind of my decisive point, is I don't wanna be in a big corporation. I don't wanna be working for a big enterprise. That was it. But I do know that there's more involved when you have a job, right? Many times we don't find the meaning of the job, or we don't see the purpose of the next 5 years or 10 years in that position, but there are very meaningful things that make you stay. Obvious things like cash and benefits and a stable paycheck, learning opportunities, networking. Is that job a stepping stone to another position? So I don't want to simplify this too much and say, oh, I know that I didn't want to be working there anymore, so I quit. There was a lot of thought process involved in all those other aspects as well. But yes, the main thing that steered me into that decision was I don't see a future here anymore, so why would I put all this time and effort instead of building something different in a very simplified manner? Then one thing is to say, okay, Julia, you didn't want to work for that company anymore specifically, but you could have worked for a different company. And yes, I could. So why did I decide to invest all my time and energy into my side gig and see if this thing is going to work? Well, sub points here in the section. First one is, since I was really young, I've always kind of fantasized and romanticized this idea of being your own boss and owning a business. I come from a family that really encourages that. So the first point is, it has always been on the back of my mind. It has always been something I wanted to do. I wanted to do it. Second point is, and this is a little bit more complex, I did really take time to think about my life and work goals. What do I want in a perfect job? I'm not saying that I'm gonna have this, but if I can shoot for the stars and try to get it, why not? Those are the three things that I would want in my perfect job scenario. First one, I wanna make a lot of money, and I do believe that what I'm investing my my time right now has the potential to make that amount of money for me. Pretty simple. The second one is I would love to have geographical freedom, in the sense that I would love to be able to work from different places for a pretty big chunk of the year. Why is that on the back of my mind? Because as I said, I am Brazilian. I'd love to be able to maybe visit my parents when they are older, or maybe take my kids to Brazil for 2 or 3 months at a time and be able to work and keep earning that income from different places. Simple as well. And the third one is I want to be able to allocate the hours, my work hours, as I wish. And I think when we get into this part of like quitting your job and working the hours that you want, there's a huge misconception that you will work less or you'll be able to have so much freedom in your day. Honestly, I've been working many more hours and longer days, consecutive days, working weekends since I quit my job. I think it's just such a misconception that people have, that they quit their jobs and have so much time for themselves. Because if you're really trying to make this work, you're working hard to make it work. That at least has been my experience so far. The one thing that I can do, and what is one of my goals, is to be able to play with the timing that I'm working. Let's say that I want to work from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and then take a break and then take my yoga class at 11 a.m. This is something that I can do now and I really appreciate, and something that I just could not manage to do when I had a day job, a 9-to-5 job. So those are the 3 things that would make up a perfect job for me, and that's what I'm going after. This is the reason why I decided to build this for myself instead of finding it at a different company. Not saying that I couldn't find it, but I think it would be a little bit harder. Then the next point, which I believe is the most important point, is I did have something going for me on the side and I had already proven that concept. So I absolutely would not have quit my job if I didn't have that side gig and I hadn't been working on it for 6 months. And I didn't know for certain that I could make some money out of it. In fact, by the time that I quit, I was already making money out of the side gig, which was a good sign to me that, one, I wouldn't have to put money in the side gig to invest and avoid it from failing. It was a profitable machine. And 2, I wasn't just kind of jumping the bridge and hoping for the best. I had worked really hard for those 6 months, and my partners have worked really hard before that as well to establish a successful business that would be profitable. They had worked on this for years before I joined, actually. Last point here is very important as well. I had the means, I had the money to do that. I had money in the bank, I had savings that I could tap into, and that made me taking that leap a little bit easier, and I felt safer that I had a big chunk of reserve on the side, that if I didn't make a single dollar from the side gig, I would still be okay for several months and I would have time to recalculate the route and go get a job if needed. So all these combined were the main reasons why I decided to invest my time on my side gig instead of looking for a separate job. And now, a relevant part as well. Why am I sharing this on video format with you when I'm clearly not your favorite YouTuber yet? Because, well, this video specifically, it's because when I decided to quit my job, I went and did some research. I was trying to find people like me now who had quit their jobs to try to understand their thought process and also see if there was something that they considered important and on their decision that I wasn't evaluating, that I wasn't considering, and kind of just make sure I was covering myself from all angles. So I was listening to podcasts, I was watching YouTube videos, and maybe I can now be that reference for someone else. My goal with this channel in general is kind of to do the same. I do believe that based on the journey that we saw, I did build some finance operationals knowledge that has helped me tremendously to start my own business that I co-founded with my partners, that has helped me tremendously to start my sole proprietorship, my consulting gig, in the sense that I feel safe financially, tax-wise, insurance-wise, just like the back of the scenes, the back of the house. And I think there's a lot of people who could benefit from this knowledge as well, so why not share it? Then, secondly, I discovered that I'm having a lot of fun doing this, actually. It's fun to think about a scenario and think about the video editing and writing the script, so it's kind of like a creative project that I'm excited about. And finally, I did say that I am financially focused. So yes, I am going to treat this as a business. And if at any point this channel opens a door for me business-wise, if it's with client referrals for my consulting gig or any type of monetization, I do know that it's really hard to make it on YouTube. Why not, right? So yeah, those are my reasons. And now, as any good business meeting, let's recap what we did today. We saw a quick overview of what my career was up to this point. We saw and understood why did I quit my job and what did I consider when I decided not to look for another job and invest all my time on my side gig. And finally, why am I sharing this with you here? And if I may, let's establish some actionable items going forward. One, if you're still here with me, thank you very much. That means a lot. That's very special to me. And if you are, assuming that you like this content, so please hit the like button. It would mean the world to me to know that people are watching this and they like it. Secondly, if you think that the topics that I'm gonna be covering on this channel might help you, subscribe and don't miss any of the content. And thirdly, if you have any comments, any feedback, any questions and things that you are facing on your business and maybe I can help you, leave on the comments. I'd love to chat with you. And that's it for today. Bye for now.